So recently I had a browse through eBay for graphics cards, as you do. After pages upon pages of no interest, I stumbled upon this untested RX 7800XT's at a heavy discount. And what did I do? I bought two, specifically the Sapphire model and also this XFX one. So let's have a look to see if these are actually functioning GPUs or a complete waste of time. With the two boxes here, we will now be looking at the GPUs, starting off with the Sapphire RX 7800XT. Now, I'll be honest, I'm quite surprised it came in its original packaging. The exterior looks well kept with no major imperfections. Taking a look inside the box, we have the GPU anti-sag bracket, an ARGB connector for motherboard control, and of course the GPU. So all in all the accessories are included, despite the listing saying otherwise. A quick look at the Sapphire, there's no major signs of damage on the exterior. It almost looks like it's never been used before, as I couldn't identify any dust within the fans and the heatsink, so a plus from me. That is until I noticed a small mark on the outer edge of the chassis, though at this price it didn't really bother me. Now it's time to unbox the one we've all been waiting for. Just kidding. The XFX graphics card came in this peculiar black box with someone going crazy with the sellotape. So no original packaging, but how's the GPU holding up? Off to a great start, the GPU is kept in an anti-static bag that might not be XFX. But who knows, just hope it doesn't blow up. Jokes aside, the unboxing was pretty simple with nothing else included in the box. Thankfully the GPU looks well kept with no major signs of damage. The exterior looks free of any scratches or scuffs, and again the fans look dust free. It was actually in really good condition. I suspected it could have been new. It even smelt like a brand new product. Anyways, with the unboxings out of the way, it is now time to test these two cards. Let's see how they fare. To begin with, we have the unassuming XFX 7800XT. Installing it in my personal rig, pairing it with a Ryzen 5 5600 and 32GB of RAM. Now, the boot up. Least be said, I was bricking it at this point. Powering it up, hoping to see some sort of life, it suddenly booted up with no issues. Obviously, I can't leave it there. To make sure it was fully functional, I downloaded the appropriate drivers and ran a heaven benchmark to truly abuse this card to the max. Every ounce of power had to be squeezed out. I also played some games, but we don't talk about that. With that said, the card is fully functional and I'm sure it can be used for many years to come. So all in all, the XFX takes the W. Now the Sapphire model, will we get the same result? Well, I hooked it up and patiently waited for something to pop up. 30 seconds later, with nothing on the screen and the VGA light illuminated, I got very concerned. But perhaps it was just this PC. I put it on a test bench and again patiently waited, but nothing. No display output whatsoever. As the CPU in this system has an iGPU, I checked to see if it was even recognized. But again, no sign of life, except the bright glow from the LEDs, which I have to say do look very nice. The fans weren't spinning and the GPU did get very hot to the touch, so to prevent any more damage, I turned it off. And that's that. A GPU which at face value looked very promising, only to be led to disappointment. With the working 7800XT, I decided to throw some games at it. Will it run perfectly fine or encounter a fault along the way? Let's have a look, shall we? Starting off, we have GTA 5 running at 1440p with high settings. The average FPS was pretty good with it hovering around 120 FPS, few dips around the mid 70s with more frequent lag spikes, but that's due to the game having some sort of FPS barrier when hitting the upper hundreds. This game is reaching legacy status, so it's best for more budget systems, but GTA is a classic, so I had to throw it in there. The overall feel to the game was pretty good and I didn't experience any weird artifacting I initially thought I would have. Next, we have Fortnite on the high preset at 1440p. This game can be quite demanding, so the high preset was a comfortable setting to achieve on average above 100 FPS. I didn't experience much in lag spikes and stutters except when landing. Notice how much RAM the game is using. Yeah, Fortnite is quite heavy at times, but in this instance it didn't really bother me. You could use performance mode to maximize FPS, but to really test this card, but also have a playable experience, this was the best option. If you want to play Fortnite on this card, you'll have no problems whatsoever, just be sure you have a CPU to match to avoid any bottlenecking. Now, excuse my shocking gameplay, here we have CS2 running on high settings at 1440p, the game ran flawlessly with barely any noticeable dips in FPS, but you'd expect that from the game, so no surprise. We saw an average around 260 FPS with infrequent drops in the low hundreds. Honestly, if you're a die-hard CS2 fan, then the most you'd need is a 3050 and 16GB of RAM, but this game is popular, so let's run with it. One thing I didn't mention as of yet is power draw. Most of the games tested didn't draw more than 250 watts, which makes this XFX card pretty efficient. My personal rig has a 6750XT and I can pull upwards of 300 watts in a lot of titles. Anyways, CS2 ran very well, so let's go on to the next game. Up next is everyone's favourite game, Minecraft. Wait, it isn't? Okay. You might be wondering why Minecraft. Well, running on shaders can be quite resource intensive, so I paired it up with Astro Elect shaders on Sodium, running on the latest version with settings maxed out except the render distance, and of course 1440p. I was getting a pretty typical FPS in the low hundreds with a couple of stutters here and there when generating new chunks. I feel like no matter how good your GPU is, that's bound to happen. The overall gameplay was pretty smooth and looked awesome. Shaders are definitely the way to play this game, if your PC can support it of course. Okay, I really wanted to test this graphics card properly. Will it survive or die a fateful death? Here we have The Last of Us running on high settings at 1440p. I was quite surprised with the results on this one. It actually kept a decent average of above 80 FPS. Now, I originally thought that this game would run very poorly, but in reality I was undermining the power of this card. The 7800XT does get a lot of flack online, but in reality it's a really great card for someone getting into 1440p gaming. So far the GPU has survived, but will it when I crank up the settings? Now on Ultra, the card still went on with a pretty modest average of 60 FPS with barely any noticeable dips. I guess we could say now that this card has been properly tested. So was all of this worth it at the end? Well, yeah, we scored a 7800XT for under £250 in pretty good condition, minus the packaging of course. The used market for these cards go for quite a bit, so there's definitely profit. And if you're wondering if it still works, yes it does. Shame the Sapphire model had its faults. What a good looking card that is. Oh well, I guess I could stare at it for what it's worth, or just return it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe for future content. I'll see you guys in the next one.